Oilfield work is dangerous, even under the best conditions. But when companies cut corners or ignore safety, it's the workers who pay the price. One accident can mean catastrophic injuries, lost income, and a long road to recovery. At Morrison DeWitt Injury Lawyers, we have the resources and experience to handle oilfield injury cases and stand by workers and their families through the legal process. Real cases, real injuries. Morris and DeWitt Injury Lawyers. Paid spokesperson Trey Morris, Shreveport, LA, 2519596.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, August 13th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. NFL preseason week 1 kicks off tonight. Also, episode 1 of the Better Day Football Show comes your way later on this afternoon. But we continue our 32 and 32 NFL team previews with the Dallas Cowboys. As AJ Hoffman joins me on this episode of Better Day, presented by FanDuel, we'll also get some UFC bets for this weekend's event. AJ, thanks for joining us, as you will, each and every Thursday morning here on the pod. And the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was the negative reception about the new Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park. All the Bills fans are upset. $2 billion for nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if they're more upset about the blocked views or if they're more upset about the gray uniforms. But there's a lot to bitch about right now up in Orchard Park or in Buffalo. So it's funny. They say, oh well, these were never meant for football. Oh, sure they weren't. Sure they weren't. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Bills ownership is notoriously cheap. If they could find a way to cut a corner, it doesn't surprise me that they did it. But yeah, I'm glad they're getting the kinks worked out early.
Yeah. For those who don't know and who haven't seen any of the video clips that we post, and we will post more once the season gets underway, but AJ Hoffman is a Bills fan. He's got a giant Josh Allen framed signed jersey behind him in his studio. So we like to poke fun when we can. The one thing I am looking forward to with the stadium, and I know that I saw some tweets, AJ, about like the fans saying, we definitely felt the wind. Like, remember when we talked about this when Hard Knocks aired a couple of years ago, when they were giving Josh Allen the tour of the stadium, and that is that it was engineered to restrict the wind at field level. So the wind could be swirling outside. You could feel it in the stands, in the upper levels, whatever. You won't feel it at field level to the same degree. So when there's a windy day in Buffalo and the sportsbooks all lower the number because people bet windy unders, I'm going to actually pivot and go the other way and bet the over on a reduced number because we know the new Highmark Stadium reduces that wind at field level.
Well, at least we know in theory it does.
Sure.
Again, much like the obstructed views. Don't be surprised if that doesn't work. They had a lot of money to invest in a giant buffalo and a giant broken table. So they made the engineering. That's all questionable. Well, it's all TBD. No, I think they probably did a great job with the stadium. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like on a game day, and yeah, hopefully you're right. That's a good angle is trying to catch a wind over because it shouldn't be much. They say it's going to be like the wind should be almost like what it would be inside a dome.
Yeah,
you're still going to have the cold and things like that, and the snow, obviously, but without the wind. So I'm curious to see how that works out. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of anything like it before this. I think it's the first time anyone's ever done something that that technical to try and knock it down. But if it works, it's a pretty cool thing they've got going.
Yeah, for sure. We won't see the wind play a role in Saturday's game where the Bills will host the Panthers in their first preseason game. Week 1 of the preseason gets underway tonight. You got the Lions at the Bengals, Packers at the Steelers, Colts at the Patriots, Cardinals at the Raiders, Chargers at the Texans, and the Titans are at the 49ers. These are your Thursday night games here, NFL preseason week 1. Anything that you're looking forward to tonight, AJ? Any storylines from any of these teams that really are grabbing your attention right now?
I think the Colts are an interesting watch just because the drama surrounding Anthony Richardson, and the Colts have said that he's going to be their starter in this game tonight. They remain. I guess they're still trying to shop him. Maybe the most unintentionally hilarious trade request ever is Anthony Richardson acting like there's some reason why a team would want to trade for him. But I'm interested to see how much time he gets out there. And I think that the Colts may be a play on tonight, because I do think that they're a lot more interested in seeing what they've got in Riley Leonard. And we saw some good stuff about Riley Leonard. So I expect Riley Leonard to get kind of the lion's share. And quite frankly, I think Riley Leonard's probably a better player than Anthony Richardson at this point. A team, that's one of the teams I'm looking forward to getting into tonight and seeing how they manage their quarterbacks, and really see if there's any reason why anyone would ever want to trade for Anthony Richardson. He's really got a lot to prove if he thinks he's going to get another chance somewhere.
Yeah.
So I expect him to play hard when he's out there tonight, and try and showcase the things that make him good, which are running with the football. I expect to see him run quite a bit, which in the less times he throws the ball, the fewer times he throws it, the less it is in danger, which is probably a good thing as well. So, yeah, the Colts probably a play on for me tonight.
Yeah, with Anthony Richardson starting, you're right. Colts right now up on FanDuel -2.5 for tonight's game, as they will take on the New England Patriots there in Foxborough. I'm curious what we see from Fernando Mendoza, obviously the number 1 overall pick here in Vegas, coming up tonight against the Cardinals. We know Kirk Cousins is going to be the week 1 starter, right? We know that. Yeah. Despite the whole drama between him and Max Crosby and whatever, we know Kirk Cousins is going to start week 1. But at what point do you think we see Mendoza? Because I look at their schedule, AJ, and I honestly don't know. Like, do they have a late bye? It's like week 13. I just don't see any soft landing spots for the kid, but you know that they do want him to start at some point this season. I guess I shouldn't say that. In an ideal world, Kirk Cousins leads them to a double-digit win season and they're a playoff team. But I think that they would like to get Mendoza in sooner rather than later if this is going to be a bust of a season. I just don't see a fit for it in the schedule.
I think that when they brought in Kirk Cousins, they had in their mind that they wanted to go kind of the old school route on this. And we've seen a lot of young quarterbacks rushed in recent years, and it hasn't worked out well for them. And it's kind of stunted the growth. And with, like, while for every CJ Stroud and Jaden Daniels rookie year, there was also a Bryce Young and a Will Levis and just, disaster. And quite frankly, Cam Ward. There's been some rough rookie years. And, last year, I think the Titans, when they drafted Cam Ward, they had in their minds that they were going to take it slow with Cam Ward. They weren't going to rush him out there year 1. And injury didn't allow for that to happen. So I think the Raiders are looking at Kirk Cousins as not just like a bridge to get them to Mendoza, but I think they're looking at him as they're hoping he is the starter and a mentor for him this year, to the point where maybe, if he does start, maybe it's late in the season. Mm-hmm. You talk about soft landings. There's I think a stretch at the very end of the season for them where it's Titans and Cardinals in back-to-back weeks, and that's right before week 18. Yeah. And I forget which AFC team they close out with, but it's like a probable playoff team. So it may be a team that's sitting players. Kansas City is who it is. So if it's Tennessee, Arizona, Kansas City, week 18, when if you doubt that a Mahomes would be playing, you doubt that Kansas City's got a lot to play for, then maybe that's an opportunity for him. But I think in an ideal world, the Raiders get a full season out of Kirk Cousins, or close to a full season out of him, and Mendoza gets some time to marinate.
Raiders 1.5-point favorites tonight up on FanDuel against the Cardinals. Clint Kubiak, their head coach, did say that Mendoza is going to get, quote, plenty of experience in the game. And also, quote, he'll get plenty of reps. So we might actually see Mendoza for extended period of time here.
I wouldn't be surprised at that. Aiden O'Connell's the other option, and one thing we know about Aiden O'Connell is he sucks at football. So chances are good this is the time when they probably want to get as much of a look at Mendoza as they can. They want to build his reps now, because I do think they're hoping reps will be limited in the regular season.
Yeah, well, the Cowboys don't kick off their preseason, AJ, until Saturday night at the Seattle Seahawks, the reigning Super Bowl champions, and that leads us to our 32 in 32 team preview of the Dallas Cowboys.
Baseball fans, think you know who's hitting a homer today? Well, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. Joining the action's easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. You've got nothing to lose and a lot to gain. And don't forget, you can make a free pick every day during MLB season. It's just another way FanDuel is home for home runs. So, are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com/Believe. That's FanDuel.com/Believe to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. 21 plus in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DC, Kentucky, Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY New York. Call 1-877-770-7867 in Louisiana.
Reason for optimism around this team, AJ, heading into training camp. Offensively, we know what they're capable of, right? Pickens is back, but how happy is he? What's the situation going to be for the entirety of the season with Pickens? And defensively, you can't be worse than you were last year, right? So,
yeah, it's one of the things we've talked about a lot on my show is, it's just because it's different doesn't mean that it's better. And the thought that Christian Parker is, there's some things we've seen with Christian Parker, particularly with some secondaries. He's done a good job. We saw the way that he pushed along some young players, and that's entirely possible. It could happen again. We could see some big steps for these secondary guys. They've got guys like Caleb Downs, their first round pick, even a guy named Devin Moore who they took a little bit later. Some free agent pickups they made in the back end. Those could be guys who help. And are they going to turn into Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean? That's hard to say, but that's why they brought Christian Parker in. And so when I say, different doesn't always mean better. Like you said, it's hard to be worse. Mm-hmm. Like it does, no matter what they do, it's going to be very difficult to be worse. The biggest problem is though, and the problem A with the defense last year was, when they got rid of Micah Parsons, there wasn't anything to fill that void. And quite frankly, there still isn't anything to fill that void. And it may even be, the pass rush may even be weaker than it was a year ago without Jadeveon Clowney, who actually came in and did a really good job for Dallas last year. Without Dante Fowler, they're hoping that Rashawn Gary still has something in the tank. I'm not so sure. And other than that, they're counting on some young guys like Malachi Lawrence, and if he breaks out, then great. But I'm not sure what they're going to do on the edge. So I think pass rush is still going to be an issue for them. They're certainly solid in the middle of that defensive line, maybe about as good as they can be. You talk about will George Pickens be happy? I know Quinnen Williams is going to be happy. He is a very well paid man now. They're going to be tough to run on, but if you don't have a pass rush, then it makes everything more difficult on the back end guys. And I think that's where the biggest questions will be answered for Dallas defensively. Offensively, you assume everything is going to be pretty decent again. I still think the Cowboys have probably a below average offensive line, but the skill position guys are just so good. And I do think they'll miss Miles Sanders a little bit. I think he gave them a nice little addition last year, but for the most part, it's all about those wide receivers, and it's about Dak Prescott. And if Dak stays healthy, those two receivers stay healthy, they provide a lot of matchup problems. So again, assuming health, I think the offense is going to be close to as good as it was a year ago. I think Schottenheimer has really figured out how to use these guys. But the big questions are on the offensive line on that side of the ball.
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? If we look at the trench report up on betterday.com, like the Cowboys do not rank well in the trenches, and it's because their pass protection does not grade out well. Now, again, everything could change this year. Like our trench report is really going off of, last year's metrics, right? With some roster turnover. The Cowboys, as we grade them out here up on betterday.com, they do grade out well in the interior of the
Yeah.
trenches, but their tackles are the problem. And when it comes to the tackles, that's the issue when it comes to your pass block grade on the trench report. Now, I also looked at the trench report strength of schedule for the Dallas Cowboys, and they play right now. Let's see. The strength of schedule report for Dallas has them as the second most difficult trench report strength of schedule in the entire NFL. And that's the reason why, like, I lean towards their win total going under 9.5 is because of how poorly they grade out versus their opponents for the entirety of the schedule. But again, like I said, that could change. If the tackles are better and they protect Dak Prescott, that pass block grade is going to improve. And we know how good the interior is. Everything could change on a week in, week out basis here with this Cowboys offensive line.
Yeah, the tackles, Tyler Guyton, who up until this point has kind of been a bust of a first round pick. The thought is that he's going to be able to take a step this year, and if he doesn't, then the Cowboys really need to find a different solution at left tackle. They went into in the offseason, they were saying that we're going to have our 5 best linemen on the field. We don't know what positions they're going to play, but since then they've announced that Tyler Guyton's going to get the first crack at the starting lineup. They've got a guy named Nate Thomas that they'd like, and they want to see how he does there as well. If Guyton were to falter on the other side, Terrence Steele kind of is what he is, and he's not very good. He's a guy who was a surprise breakout for them 4 or 5 years ago. A guy that they just kind of found on the pile, and he's a San Antonio guy. He's a Texan, and they thought, wow, we really found a diamond in the rough here. They paid him accordingly. And since then, he's given them either no production or bad production.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to imagine that they're going to be significantly better on those lines. But if there is an improvement, then yeah, man, this has a chance to be a really special offense. Because like I said, the skill positions, you're going to have a hard time finding a better group of guys. Like, if you'd say, take your quarterback, your running back, your top 2 receivers, and your tight end.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few teams in this league that are better at those 5 spots than the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. What did I used to call it? I called it when I used to grade out units. I said, was it the fantasy 5? I called it. And I was saying, like, if you were to grade out every team's fantasy team just based on the 5 skills, and I was like 2 wide receivers, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 tight end, who has the best fantasy 5 in the NFL? And yeah, the Dallas Cowboys,
for sure.
They are in that top tier of I might have to bring that back this year, the fantasy 5, see which team has the best. Because remember, I was like, the Eagles have the best fantasy 5 in the league, right? With AJ Brown now he's gone, but AJ Brown, Devontae, Saquon, and yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. More on the Dallas Cowboys. Well, speaking of the NFC East, they are plus 235, the second favorite to win the NFC East behind the Philadelphia Eagles. They are minus 110 up on FanDuel to make the playoffs. So a 9.5 win total, though, that is juiced to the under at minus 140. Interesting that you have to lay a little juice for them to make the playoffs. As far as some season-long stats are concerned, George Pickens, his receiving touchdown total is 6.5. CeeDee Lamb at 7.5. Dak Prescott's passing touchdown total, 27.5. Some of those numbers don't add up to me. I mean, if we saw what Pickens did last year, I feel like maybe the over 6.5 could be a play, even though I don't like doing season-long overs.
Yeah, I think the reason why those numbers all feel kind of weird is because I think the market is saying a lot about what they think about Philadelphia with those numbers. I think we saw sort of the start of a decline in Philadelphia. I think it's reasonable to expect that they are not going to get better. They've got an aging running back, as great as he's been. He's every running back hits that wall at some point. So you factor in that could be a possibility. You take away their best, their best passing game weapon in AJ Brown, and we also saw that the deterioration of that offensive line in Philly, making Jalen Hurts. The great thing about Jalen Hurts 2 or 3 years ago was that tush push, which is Yeah, I mean, you saw that at the end of the year they hardly used it. So
Yeah.
I think there's some vulnerability there with Philly, which if you like Dallas, that gives you a little bit of hope. I don't see this Cowboys team as a playoff team unless Philly's just awful. But there is a path to it because the other two teams in that division are like I wouldn't even really consider them for playoff bids. The Giants and the Commanders. I just think
Yeah.
they're so far away. So if there is some improvement defensively for Dallas, there's a world where you could see them making it. I'm with you. Under 9.5 would be my play. But I do think the Cowboys are one of the teams that are probably closest to that number. I think they're in that 8, 9, 10 range. I lean a little bit to the under. I hate that you have to pay juice to get that under, but that's the way I would look right now.
Doesn't it feel like this year is going to like kind of revert back to like older years that we're so used to seeing the NFC East be a division where everybody just eats each other up, right?
Yeah.
And all four teams finish with comparable records. The winner of the division might be, 9-7. Well, now obviously, this year with the new schedule, like it changes, but like the winner might have 10 wins, and then you'll have a second place team with 9 wins, and then like an 8-win team and a 7-win team. I think we're going to see something like that this year, and we're not going to see, a 12 or a 13-win team in this division.
No, I don't think there is I don't think there's a potential 13-win team in this division. I think this is a very, very mediocre division, top to bottom. Like I think the Giants, if things go well, the Giants can be a mediocre team.
The Giants. Their Giants win total 7.5, same as the Commanders. I think the Giants are probably an 8-9 team. I think the Commanders are a 7 or a 6-win team, and I think the Cowboys are a 9-win team. I think the Eagles are a 10-win team, maybe 11 tops.
Yeah, I think those bottom two teams, they're probably both teams that right now, if you said you're going to finish 9-8, I think those franchises would go, you know what, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not a bad place to be.
Yep.
I think Dallas has a little bit higher expectation. Philly does, but I don't know that Philly's expectation is realistic. So I think, like I said, there's a path to it for the Cowboys. It would take a big jump in that defense, which again, a lot of people are confident in. Our afternoon show was just out in Oxnard, and they were, they were pleased with what they saw out of the defense. But that's in practice. You're playing in shorts and pads even. So it's like it's hard to take a lot away from it. But if there is any kind of improvement, if they become an average defense or even a slightly below average defense, the Cowboys have a real chance to make a playoff run. And but there are the other thing though is their schedule. They didn't get a lot of favors. The NFC West being the other division for them is tough because, I mean, outside of Arizona, I would argue that all of the other teams in the NFC West are probably better than Dallas, and probably better than most of the NFC East teams, period. So that's tough. The AFC South, while on its face isn't like a great division, it's sort of a bad matchup for the Cowboys because you're playing against teams that are better on defense than they are on offense. Jacksonville and particularly the Texans are going to limit your offense, period. So that means you're going to have to count on your defense to at least keep things relatively close, because you're not going to put up 35 points against the Texans very often this year. So the schedule's tough, and some of the runs that they've got in the schedule particularly are tough. Early in the season, they get Baltimore, at Houston, Tampa, at Green Bay, at Philly, all in a row. And that includes that run includes Baltimore, which is a home game that they lose, that they're playing in Rio. They come back and they're playing at Houston on regular rest. And then the next game, they're playing Thursday night football against Tampa. So there's some tough runs for them. It's going to be intriguing to see what they can really put together, but it does feel like a little over or a little under 500 football team.
That'll wrap up our 32 and 32 NFL team preview of the Dallas Cowboys. Tomorrow we will continue the NFC East as we get into the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, AJ, while we have you, real quick, we have UFC 330 coming up this weekend in Philly. Speaking of Philly, Islam Makhachev taking on Ian Machado Gary in the main event. You also have Mackenzie Dern. taking on Jillian Robertson.
I know.
And then the rest of that main card has some interesting names on it. Do you have a best bet that you want to give us here, and maybe a little preview of the main event?
Yeah, I'll give you a play on the undercard. That is, probably not one of the most sexy fights, but
So it's not the Mackenzie Dern one.
No, that is a very, very, very sexy fight. But there's there's a guy named Lucas Fernando who is these are light heavyweights, 205ers. And Tobias is there. These are two young guys. Tobias is about 23 years old, tall guy, knockout power, and he's had some good things going for him early on. But this Fernando, who he lost on the Contender Series, but he's 6'3". He's a big guy, and he seems to he tried at middleweight. He seems to be a lot better at light heavyweight. He looks a lot more willing to get into the fray at light heavyweight, and I'm seeing some progress with him that I'm kind of digging. I think he's got a good opportunity here to make a statement. And I think at light heavyweight, where you see a little higher rate of knockouts, I think we're going to see one here. So I'm going to look at Lucas Fernando by knockout. You could play him at minus 265 just to win, but I think Lucas Fernando inside the distance would be my favorite way to play it. But I think he does get a finish in this fight. So that's one way I'm looking. In the main event, it's such a fascinating matchup, and this is Ian Machado Gary is a guy who catches a lot of grief for a lot of different things that he doesn't really have control over. Like he's a little bit overhyped. He was a little overhyped when he came in because everybody was hoping he would be the next Conor McGregor because everyone's looking for an Irish guy to be the next Conor McGregor, and he's such the opposite. He's not a loudmouth. He's not great on the mic. They give him grief because he took his wife's last name. There's a lot of stuff to go, what's weird about Ian Machado Gary? But what the guy is an elite top tier defensive fighter. His offense is coming along. He's still getting better. He's a work in progress. But he is the kind of guy, he's very difficult to take down. He's very difficult to hold down. And obviously Islam Makhachev, that's what he does to everybody. He takes you down, he holds you down, he beats you up. I think it's going to be tough sledding for Islam. I do think he's good enough to get the job done, but I don't think it's going to be easy. If you want Islam by decision, which is the way that I would play this thing, it's just over even money. You can get around plus 110 on that if you shop around. I like the fight to go to the distance either way, though. If you think that Gary has a chance to beat him, by all means, take your shot. But I do think he's going to be very difficult to finish. So I like the over, and I'm going to personally play Makhachev by decision at a slight plus number.
Yeah, up on FanDuel right now. Will the fight go the distance? It is minus 160 to the yes. So that is probably the way to go here because even the total rounds, which is so weird, 4.5 over is minus 168. I guess like you're battling against 2.5 minutes in the final round is what you're trying to handicap there, an 8-cent difference for those 2.5 minutes.
And quite frankly, we've seen, this with Makhachev moving up to 170 pounds. It's not, remember he spent a lot of time fighting Volkanovski, who's a 145er. And now he's fighting these much bigger guys. He's going to be, if anything, he's going to be very protective of himself late in fights. And it's a wise strategy. And Islam Makhachev is never worried about whether or not it's a crowd pleasing style. He doesn't care if fans boo or cheer. That's not his concern. That dude wants to go out there and win fights. So I expect him to play safe. And if that means trying to hold Ian Gary down, I think that's what he does. And like I said, Gary's just so defensively sound. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to just be smashed by Islam. So I personally like the fight to go the distance. And that's where I'm gonna stick my flag on Islam to win the title. But it's not going to be an easy one. And if you like Machado to keep it close, which I wouldn't hate as well. If you want to play the rounds, like I know not every book allows you to play like plus 5.5 or whatever the case may be. But but in this fight, it's Gary's plus 9.5.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's a huge number, and so you're asking him to just win a round, and if he wins 2 rounds, you're in great shape. Yep. So I don't see Ian Machado getting wiped out in this thing. So I think the plus 9.5 is a decent bet if you've got a book that allows that. But Makhachev by decision, my official pick.
Love it. We'll be watching coming up in Philly on Saturday night. AJ, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for previewing the Dallas Cowboys with us. Next week, we will get into college football as week 0 is fast approaching on the 29th. Yeah. So next week we'll do a little college football preview, but then starting on, when your appearance on Thursday the 27th, we'll get best bets for week 0 in college football. You can catch some of AJ's best bets by becoming a Better Day Premium member. Learn how you can become a Better Day Insider or Premium member by checking us out up on BetterDay.com or the Better Day mobile app available on iOS and Google Play. That's right. We're on your iPhone and your Android, so no excuse not to download the Better Day mobile app. And coming up later on this afternoon, it is the Better Day Football Show, Episode 1 with myself, Joshua Nunn, and Steve Fezzik, streaming live on the Better Day YouTube and Twitter page. For AJ Hoffman, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.